subhanahu wa ta'ala. So rectify intentions inshallah azza wa jal. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'u mazida wa salatu wa salam ala khayr al-anam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praise that's worthy of the beneficent bestower of bounties and favours. And we ask our Lord Most High to send copious and unlimited and eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet, Nabi and Rasul, Sayyidina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And we acknowledge the land in which we hold this class is Aboriginal land, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. So if we continue inshallah azza wa jal, we said, which page was it? 95, beware of sowing discord through slander. Is that what we got up to? So we'll start with the Arabic. قال المؤلف رحمه الله رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم. It says وإياك, he says قال المؤلف إياك وإياك وإفساد ذات البين بالنميمة والغيبة ونحوهما مما يوجب التنافر والتدابر فإن ذلك عند الله تعالى عظيم. I think we mentioned that last week, did we not? No. Beware of sowing discord through slander, backbiting, or anything else such as will result in antagonism and aversion, for this is considered an immense sin by God. Alright, so we've spoken previously about the tongue and the vices of the tongue, and we've spoken about that at length. And so for the believer, that the tongue, even though it's in a sense a weak piece of flesh, it can do immense and uncalculable damage, not only to one's soul personally, and not only to one's hereafter, but to one's faith. Haliqa, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that to backbite is haliqa. He said not. It means it shaves. And the Sahaba looked at not, and the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, it doesn't shave hair. It shaves the deen, not the hasanat, not the good deeds that a person may or may not do, but it shaves one's deen, because it ends up, when Allah putting a person into a state, which we'll talk about today, into a state of being a critic. What does a critic do? That's all. What do they? They don't do anything. All they do is criticize. Oh, they commentate on what? Basketball. They commentate on the awards. I think they were on recently, some sort of award, like Dalian, wasn't it? Oscars, all right? Oh, he's wearing, she's wearing, who's wearing, how they're wearing, where they... Everything, they just wait to commentate. And then what do we do when Azza as consumers? We're not only consumers of material things. We're consumers of the attitude that goes along with materialism. Because that's what it's based on. Consumerism, having more, filling. Oh, the commentary, like here we are sitting at our homes, our couches, probably all our whole furniture is probably worth less than one of those ladies' dresses. Yet, we see fit to criticise and commentate, and then the acceptance speeches for those individuals, they have to also criticise. Oh, everyone this year spoke too much about love and being good with each other, so not good. We better find a better thing to talk about in the future because everyone's doing it, so it's not popular, etc. So critics, unfortunately, they're useless in that regard. We don't need critics. We need scholars. We don't need critics. We need people who love. We don't need critics. We need people who have empathy. We don't need critics. We need people who have compassion. People who have sympathy. We don't need to criticize everyone and what they do and throw an opinion out unnecessarily. And should we have, as they sometimes call it, constructive criticism, which in our tradition is called nasiha. Nasiha, which is to counsel someone for their own benefit, then how do we do it? We don't publish it on a Facebook page. Actually, today I unfriended someone on Facebook, or yesterday, because of that. They were just consistently, non-stop, Muslim person, consistently, non-stop criticising everyone. That's enough, man. Holy bus. The scholars, the non-scholars, the academics, the politicians. All right, man, all right. I'm glad you're a reporter and you're a journalist and your job is to report. But why are you on everyone's back? Why are you on that? And we'll talk about what that gets to. Why is it haliqa lid-deen? Why does it shave one's deen? Shave one's in other words, one's worship, one's practice of Islam. It's a big thing. The Prophet said that. حالق على الدين. It kills the deen. It gets rid of it. That's it. There's no more deen left. So, we spoke about ghiba. What's ghiba? Define ghiba.
Speak behind someone.
Right? To speak behind someone's back, backbiting, something that what?
Puts them down.
Right? Something that person, if they heard it, they wouldn't like it. So that's why one's got to be careful. Oh man, so-and-so, she's so short. Maybe she wouldn't like that. Or so-and-so, he's so tall. Maybe he wouldn't like that. So it's not just about, it's not an objective standard. In other words, not a standard that we can just say, oh, that's the standard for everyone. No, everyone's different. Some individuals, in law, they used to have this thing called the eggshell skull rule. That in torts, like if someone hit someone or someone fell over and their skull was real thin like an eggshell, would the person be liable? So it was decided that people have to be taken according to how they are. And it's the same in our deen. Things have to be taken, people have to be taken as they are. If someone's very sensitive, if someone's got thick skin, they don't care, it's a different story. Okay, that's ghiba, to talk negatively about someone, but why they're not present, and that person would be upset to hear it. Okay, what's namima?
Not like slander.
Right? So namima is to make and the Prophet was saying, he was talking about it, and they said, Ya Rasulullah, what if that person truly was tall or short, or had a big nose, or was bald, or whatever the case might be? No one's bald here, so we can say, I'm getting there, but no one's bald here, so we say, oh, that bloke is so bald, his head's whatever, shinier than whatever. Right? And then they said, Ya Rasulullah, what if that person is truly that quality's in that person? He said that if that person is, as you say, that's ghiba, that's backbiting. But if it isn't, then it's libel or slander. Or vilification, one might say. So, in other words, making something up, the so-and-so, he spends all his money, whatever, I don't know, something frivolous, doing something frivolous like, I don't know, he buys football cards, that's what he used to do with the kids. Buys all the football cards and he stacks them up in his house, but it's not true. He gives his money and puts his money in the right places, spends his money, it's not true. Oh, so-and-so's got 100 pairs of shoes. They're wasting their money on shoes. But it's not true. And it's usually worse than that. It's usually so-and-so is doing something with so-and-so else. But we're just giving an example so you can get it. So the backbiting might be true, but that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse to talk about someone and offend someone behind their back while they're not present to defend themselves or discuss the scenario. And then namima is, some of the ulama say, the definition is with the intention of spreading discord, with the intention of fitna, with the intention, so to defame someone, say something that's untrue about someone, with the intention of spreading discord or enmity between people. So they're important to keep in mind. وَنَحْوِهِمَا, and anything that's similar to that. Any innuendos. So, alluding to something. Was it so-and-so possibly could have done maybe something like that. Or, again, like in Facebook, it's when you tag someone into a post, doesn't that mean something? Alright, it's got a meaning to it. So it may not be direct, it may be indirect, it may be unclear, like whatever. There's always the surfing ones that I always like. So some guy can't surf and he's a terrible surfer, or the way he surfs is terrible, and it says tag a mate, it's the same. Alright, you tag them in, what if they don't like it? What if they're not into it? Or the football team ones as well, they always come up with those memes for the football teams. Some terrible football team that always loses, tag a friend or tag a mate that their team is such and such. So they may not like it. Some people might be serious about their sport. They might be members of the club or whatever the case might be. So all those other types of things that are not quite backbiting and not quite slanderous, but along those lines. And he says that because it will result in antagonism and aversion. So antagonism means it could turn into a fight. And what did we say 2 weeks ago, where the Prophet of Allah said to punch a Muslim is what? Fisk. It's what? Yeah. So to hurt a Muslim's feelings is worse than breaking the Kaaba. But the hadith said to punch a Muslim is fisk. In other words, a person's basically nifaq. And to kill a Muslim is what? Kufr. Right? So here's a person sowing the seeds of enmity, which is what aversion is, as it's mentioned there. Antagonism. That's what antagonism is. It's to make trouble between people, such that they may end up punching each other, or they may end up killing each other, just because of a word that's said. So that's why it's very... And aversion means they stop hanging out with each other. They don't want to see each other anymore. And we know that inshallah Ramadan's coming up in 3 months, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal, or so. And what happens? Two people that are enmity between them and they don't see each other for more than 3 days, the Prophet said that the believers shouldn't have enmity and not talk to each other for more than 3 days. What happens to their prayers and their fasting? It's not accepted by Allah azza wa jal. So it's a big deal. A couple of words said here and a couple of words there. Halika li what? Lideen. Halika lideen, the Prophet said. It shaves the deen, gets rid of the deen. Person's deeds aren't accepted. Because of that, because of ghiba, because there's enmity, because there's aversion. In other words, people don't want to talk to each other. And that's what? Haram. You following the trail? With me? So someone does ghiba, someone goes namima or worse, someone else gets upset, they don't talk to their Muslim brother or sister for however long, more than 3 days. That's it. What's their prayers and their fasting and their good deeds? It's gone. So that's why ghiba is destructive. For this is considered an immense sin. إِنَّهَا عَظِيمٌ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى عَظِيمٌ. It's the biggest of the big. Because Allah, like how bad it is to kill someone in our deen. It's as if they've killed who? The whole of humankind. To kill a person is like killing the whole of humanity. But what does Allah say in the Quran? الفتنة أشد من القتال. Oof. How's that? The discord and enmity, rancor. The fitna. In other words, the tribulation. It's worse. It's worse than when Allah killing someone. وأكبر من القتال. There's another verse, 2 verses. الفتنة أشد من القتال. الفتنة أكبر من القتال. Like it's heavy duty stuff. There's no mucking around. To sow discord in the hearts of people till it's worse than killing someone. Because killing someone, the person who does the killing can be brought to trial as well. Oh, so and so killed someone, brought to trial. What about the word that spreads? Who's going to catch it? Where to start? Who said it first? Who said it second? Who transmitted it? Who transported it? Who changed it? Who peppered it? Who spiced it? So we don't know. It just spreads out. And then can you bring it back? Can't bring it back. Once it's out, they say the word is like a bull. A bull, the male cow. So that once it comes out, it's like a bull. Once it's been said, it can't go back in. And the damage that it does, have you ever seen a bull angry? Charging bull? One time we saw the bull and they were overseas, they were going to slaughter the bull. And it was one of those nutty ones. Jumped like 3 stories off the building. It was on top of the roof. And then it ran and everyone barged everyone out of the way, barged cars, and jumped in the water and just swam to about 25 kilometres to the next town. It was crazy, what a bull. When the bull comes out, you can't stop it. It's crazy, this animal. One weighs about a ton, depending how big it is, and it's just on the rampage, if you've ever seen it. So, that's why we've got to guard our tongues. That's why we've got to make sure that we use them only in a positive manner. And he says, أما نميمة فهي أن تنقل كلام إنسان لإنسان تقصد بذلك الإفساد بينهما وقد قال عليه الصلاة صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا يدخل الجنة نمام وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام أبغضكم إلى الله تعالى المشاؤون بين الأحبة بالنميمة المفرقون بين الإخوان. Look, whoa. Slander is to report the words of one person to another with the intention of creating discord between them. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, A slanderer cannot enter the garden, in other words, paradise. And the most abhorrent, the most detestable amongst you to God are those who damage relationships between brothers and sisters by slander and create rifts between brethren. That doesn't need any explanation whatsoever. The most abhorrent, in other words, the worst of all people. أَبْغَضُكُمْ. And bughd is hate as well. In other words, the most detested individual to Allah Azza wa Jal. From all the different things that people can do. You know, like we talk about, we say, here's someone drinking alcohol. Oh, brother. You know, or someone zina, they do when I was a bit, they fornicate, whatever, they're involved in sex. Whoa, you know, so-and-so, whoa, so-and-so, oh, so-and-so doesn't wear hijab, oh, so-and-so doesn't have a beard, or so, and we all think that's just, whoa, this massive, oh, you know, so-and-so is doing whatever, stealing. But look, what's the worst of the worst? To break up relationships, to split between brothers, and it's not just the blood brothers and sisters, it's the spiritual, as we said, we're all brothers and sisters as Muslims. I think you can read that again at your own leisure outside of the class. وَأَمَّا الْغِيبَةُ فَهِيَ أَن تَذْكُرَ إِنسَانًا فِي غَيْبَةِ بِمَا يَكْرَهُ لَوْ كَانَ حَاضِرًا تَقْصُدْ بِذَلِكَ تَنْقِيصًا. I'm just going to read that one, so it's good. It's a good definition. Backbiting is to say things about a person in his absence, which he would have resented had he been present, with defamatory intent. So in other words, what do we call it in Australia? We call it a jia. That's what it is, or a put down. And we're professionals at it. I don't think anyone in the whole world is better than Australians at doing it. That's my experience. Maybe I haven't been to a country where they're better than that. But we're the masters of it. We're truly the masters of it. And that's because we're down to earth, and so we want to keep everyone down. So it's a put down. And look what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam. So I follow what the Imam said. Tanqisa. The point is to not to give that person the credit that person's due. And we're like that in Australia. We're like that in Australia. Even if someone's a doctor, oh, Dr. so-and-so, Mick. There you go, Mick. The guy's doctor whatever, and he's done whatever, and his name's Michael. Don't call him Michael. Mick. Which is good in a way. It's good in its place. In its place, you're at a barbecue, you've known a guy for 20, 30 years, whatever the case might be. You've, whatever, gone camping together, fishing, hunting, shopping, whatever it is you bake cakes together or cupcakes or whatever it is. You had a good relationship and rapport with the guy. All right, he tells you, call me Mick. Call him Mick. Otherwise, as a Muslim, Australian or otherwise, and what did the Prophet say? Anzil al-nas fi manazilihim. Place people in according to their status. So he's Dr. Fulan, Dr. so-and-so, Professor so-and-so, Hajj so-and-so, Hajji so-and-so, whatever the case might be. Whatever their title that they've been given, that's the title you should refer to them as. Because that's respect. That's a sign of respect. And yeah, it's good that we don't have it, but it has its place. Has its place. Like, for example, one of the judges that I know, and he was also former Attorney General, and he's also this, he says, call me John. I find it very difficult to do. I just call him Judge. He doesn't like it, but the guy is, mashallah. Mashallah, he's reached whatever, and he's done whatever, and he's stood up for the right things, and he stood up for injustices and oppressions. I respect him not just because of his position, but because of what he's said and what he's done. But that's the position Allah's given him. And then he gives you the card that says, like, the Right Honourable John so-and-so, AC, OE, all these, mashallah, Order of Australia, all these things. And he says, call me John. Because look, it's good in a way, because there isn't that, but it has to be appropriate. So, if I was, and then judges have that other thing that if you see a judge as a lawyer outside of the courtroom, you're not supposed to refer to him as judge because it's a safety issue. Some people might, whatever, have some issue with that person. So you're supposed to just refer to them as, if you know their first name, with their first name. But if you don't mention it, you don't have to either. But that's a different issue again. That's for that person's safety. But we should be placing people in there. If you have a teacher, and you know that the teacher you had when you were in year 5, and her name was Mrs. Smith, or whatever the case was, still if you see her, call her Mrs. Smith. If she tells you, call me Judy, all right, maybe, but you still should have that respect for her, or whatever her name may or may not have been. That's imperative. And your elders, you You should have respect for your elders. That when you approach them, you speak to them in a particular way, not like everyone else does. And unfortunately, like I said, that's something that isn't in our society. In the different societies, like the Arab societies, they have a huge respect for people and their position. Pakistanis are the best at it. One time was at a place and someone introduced me. Oh, this is so and so. He's second in charge of this, this airline, and he's got two airports. He's got this airport that he's responsible for. And I got upset. He said, "What? I've got two airports that I'm responsible for, not one. One in this city." Sorry, mate. All right, but that's his right. That's his right. Someone's introducing you, telling you, and that's what Allah's given him. That's his position. That's his maqam. That's his status. Why shouldn't that be respected? There's no reason why it shouldn't. But in an Australian sense, it's seen as pompous. It's seen as arrogant. It's seen as boastful. But it isn't. But that's just our culture, the way we see things as Australians. So we have to decide between our Australianness, and then we have to decide between our Muslimness. So one thing that used to always happen to me, there was this, especially it's hard with people of the opposite gender. So there was a colleague of mine, and then she's mainly involved with non-Muslims, but she's a Muslim, and I met her in an environment where people weren't Muslim. So everyone was calling me Haysam, how you going, Haysam, whatever. And then we'd be in a Muslim environment, and then she'd call me Haysam, and she's about my age or a bit younger than me. Then one day I said, "Sister, like if you had known me when I was young, all right, different story, we're in high school, you get used to it, but that's not the case." And people get the wrong impression. It was bad, because every time she'd say it, people would look like, what's going on here? And so, I've never really done that before as an Australian. Say to someone, look, just refer to me as the title, because Australians don't do that. But I had to, because it was creating issues for myself, and also that she didn't realise it, because she was deeply immersed in the Australian culture and not so much in the Islamic culture. But I'd rather have people think of me as as I'm up myself, or whatever the case might be in Australian culture, than to have those misconceptions and possible insinuations. Now, if she was a lot older than me, for example, it might be a different scenario. And then, for example, Haji Silma, that's from here. People just call her Silma. Why are you calling her Silma? The first Muslim school in the whole Australia, she started it. That's something. That's a big thing, in my view. And she's, mashallah, she's like the matriarch of our community here in Sydney. And then people call her Silma. Her name's Haji Silma. Refer to her in that way. So there's those things. We have to be aware of these things. That's placing people in the appropriate situation and not putting them in a scenario. It's a bit different to riba. It's a bit different to namima, but it's not that far away. Because the point of riba is to detract from that person, is to lessen that person's, what did he say? It's a good word here. With defamatory intent. To defame that individual. So not referring to them in their official title doesn't really defame them, but that's something that we need to be aware of, especially when our dealings with certain individuals or certain people. And he said, whether this defamation be verbal, written, or indicated. Did we say that? So حصل التفهيم بالنطق والإشارة أو الكتابة. So he says that whether this defamation be verbal, written, or indicated, because the Prophet ﷺ was talking about Safiya, one of his wives, and then Aisha Ramadan, she said, she's short. She made the sign with her hand, because taller is better, isn't it? So, Aisha is better than Safiya. Alright? And the Prophet said, you just backbited her. Or if it's written, so that's the Facebook and all these things, you've got to be careful. Because these are the things when Allah we know what happens to the person who does riba on the Day of Judgment.
People take from their good deeds.
Right? Jazakallahu khairan. That the person's got a mountain of good deeds, mountains. But, shatama hadha, as the hadith says. He spoke about this person and degraded this person and put down that person and G'd up that person. Don't get me wrong, G-ups have their place. They're good to get a connection sometimes, depending on who you are and who the other person is. But it shouldn't be our main way of communication. Alright, then what happens? People say to Allah, Ya Allah, we want our right from this person. He made us feel bad. He took away from our position. There's a good word in English, mashallah, the Mufassir. He defamed us. Defamatory intent, istinqas, or tanqis. Like, it's not really in that sense, it's to belittle. That's istinqas, is to belittle. So that person belittled me in life. I wasn't there. Ya Allah, I want my right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, take from his good deeds until the mountains disappear. Then the people, the line's still going. The line is still going. And then what happens? They say, Ya Allah, he's got no more good deeds. They say, oh, just give him your sins. And he ends up with mountains of sins after all those good deeds. And the tongue ruined his akhirah. So we don't want to fall into that situation. Because it's easy to do. It's just easy. It's so common and blasé. People are blasé. وقد قال صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم كل مسلم على المسلم حرام دمه وماله وعرضه عفوا وقال عليه السلام الغيبة أشد من الزنا لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله وأوحى الله إلى موسى عليه السلام من مات تائبا من الغيبة فهو آخر من يدخل الجنة ومن مات مصرا عليها فهو أول من يدخل النار. Like the hadith are just mind-boggling and they're heart-shattering, if you ask me, for all of us that are in that situation of just, it's a passing comment. Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. That, like this, I don't mean anything by it. I was just joking. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. Don't sell yourself short. Oh, I didn't mean... Yeah, every joke has something behind it. And look, sometimes joke is a good way to kind of get people to realize what they're doing. And in a way, it's a nasiha, it's an advice. But if it's between you and the person, that's one thing. If it's between you and you're putting the person on show, because then we said nasiha, to advise someone, to counsel someone, is between you and that individual. You don't put the person on show. In other words, you don't mention that person's faults in front of other people, because that's belittling. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, every part of a Muslim is sacrosanct. What a great word. With regard to other Muslims. Her blood, her wealth, and her honor. And backbiting is worse than adultery. Who said it? Who said it? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So don't worry who's going where. Don't worry who's doing what. That's not your business. Worry about what you're doing with your tongue. That's your business. And then he said, God revealed to Moses, peace be upon him, the one who dies having repented of his backbiting will be the last to enter the garden. And the one who dies persisting in it will be the first to enter the fire. So that means person's done backbiting, they repented, they're still the last person, they're still at the back. They're still not counted. After repenting, don't worry, just let them in, that's it. And the one who keeps doing it until the day they die, when they're first to enter the fire. Like that's as heavy duty as a hadith I've ever read. That's as heavy duty a hadith as I've ever read. When Azza wa Jal says, so all the parts of a Muslim, every part of a Muslim, Jazakallah khair, and mashallah, it's so humble, didn't even put his name on it. That's it. Badawi, Mustafa al-Badawi. Isn't it?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, translated Mustafa al-Badawi.
Mahak, mashallah, it's so humble he didn't even put his name on the cover. Mustafa al-Badawi. Mashallah. Great translation of the hadith. He says every part of a Muslim is sacrosanct. Sacrosanct. In other words, it's almost the point of being sacred. One can't go anywhere near it. And he says, what is it? Blood. Can't kill a Muslim. Wealth. Can't take the wealth of a Muslim unjustly. And honor. Why dishonor a Muslim? Allah, laqad karramna bani Adam. Not even just the Muslim. Allah Azza wa Jalla said that we've graced the children of Adam. And then, backbiting is worse than adultery. Like, how big is that? And aren't we always concerned about that? Isn't that what we're always worried about? Who's with who and what's with what and who's going where? It's worse. The backbite is worse than adultery when Allah Azza wa Jalla. So he said, alayhi salatu wassalam. And then about Sayyidina Musa, whoever, even a person repents when Allah from backbiting, then they'll be the last to enter Jannah. So, Allah Azza wa Jalla, we'll talk about it next week because it's been a long lesson, mashallah. So next week we'll talk about وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. We talk about وَلَا تُطِيعْ كُلَّ حَلَّافٍ مَهِينٍ هَمَّازٍ مَشَاءٍ بِنَمِيمٍ مَنَّاعٍ لِلْخَيْرِ مُعْتَدٍ أَثِيمٍ, from Surah Al-Qalam and Surah Al-Hamz. Alright, so what Allah Azza wa Jalla said about those people when Allah Azza wa Jalla that do backbiting, and those people when Allah Azza wa Jalla that are involved in libel and slander. Okay? So inshallah Azza wa Jalla, is there any questions about any of those things? So don't forget, it's only a couple of months for Ramadan. And we know that the pious people, the pious predecessors, the righteous of old, 6 months before Ramadan, they were asking Allah, Allahumma balighna Ramadan. So at the end of this month, Rajab will start, inshallah, the end of March. There's Rajab. Then there's Sha'ban, and there's Ramadan. This is Jamad al-Thani. That's it. And it's going to be short days, so the days that you're going to feel like they're going to go even faster soon. Daylight savings is going to finish. So that doesn't mean like stock up your shelves with dates and stock up your shelves with, hydrating fluids and whatever, Gatorades and Powerades and whatever else it might be. It means get ready to put yourself, inshallah azza wa jal, get ready to be fit, inshallah azza wa jal, spiritually fit, to read a certain amount of Quran, whatever you're capable of reading every day, hopefully a juz, hopefully a chapter. Be ready, spiritually fit, inshallah azza wa jal, to pray extra prayers during the night, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. Inshallah, prepare yourself for the actual ma'ani, for the meanings of the month of Ramadan, which is not just not eating from dawn until dusk. It's not just that. And number one is the tongue. Number one. So prepare yourself from now. So that means if you haven't been reading Quran in the last 9 months since Ramadan, that you need to start now. You need to every day read half a page, a quarter of a page, depending on what your capacity is. If you don't read in whatever language you're reading. If you don't read in that language, at least listen to it. Sit down, put it in the earphones, and you can download. There's so many apps, different apps you can download that go through all the Quran without even using any of your bandwidth, whatever it's called, gigabytes, whatever. What's it called? Data, without using any of your data. Right? You can listen to it as much as you want to listen to it. And if you don't prepare now, on the 29th or whatever, the 30th or whatever it might be of Sha'ban, it's going to be too late. By the time you get into it, Ramadan's going to be over. And it's the same with anything in life. Before you have the HSC, they don't have the trials, right? It's a couple of weeks or whatever months before it, so you can get into it. They have half yearlies before they have yearlies. They have quizzes before they have tests. Same with athletes, like the football starting. They don't really care. Oh, it's round one. It's all right. We can drop the ball, But when it comes to the end of the season, towards the finals and things, everyone's serious. And no one, if you drop the ball, it's a big deal. Even the commentators, they give it to the person who's dropped the ball because you're not supposed to. You've been playing for how many weeks? Whatever it might be, there's always a warm up to the actual event. Everything is like that in life. There's always even with food. We don't just sit down, or some people do, but we don't just sit down and start eating meat. Generally, you have a salad beforehand or a drink of something beforehand. Generally, it's good to do, or some fruit or something beforehand, whatever, to prepare the stomach for a meal. Everything's like that in life. Everything is like that in life. Everything's like that in life. So even your car, when you turn it on, you warm it up a little bit so the engine runs properly. There's no difference in that sense with Ramadan. That if we're not thinking about Ramadan from now, we're going to miss it. I know it's 30 days and it's a long time and it's 12 hours every day fasting, but the spiritual benefit that one gets will be missed. Yeah, physically we'll be there inshallah, but the spiritual benefit, the preparation for it, and the better one prepares for an exam, the better one studies, what happens in the exam?
Better marks.
Right? They do better. Don't study, what happens? You fail. Straight up. Unless you've got a photographic memory or something, then you don't have to, it's alright. Mukhlasin, they're the special ones that Allah's chosen. If you're one of those, sweet, happy days. Alhamdulillah. Okay, but if you're not, You got to put in the time now, and it's not going to hurt to fast. I know, like, you know, it's not Ramadan, and it's not Fard. I know it's hot, but it's not going to hurt to fast a few days beforehand. Prepare yourself. It's not going to hurt to fast some time between now and Ramadan, Mondays and Thursdays, or the white days, which are 13, 14, 15, when the moon's full, the black days, 26, 27, 28, or 28, 27, 28, 29. But it's not going to hurt to fast. It's good to fast those days. It's good. Prepare yourself. And I'm not talking just physically. Spiritually, that's the main thing. Because it's easy to miss the spiritual benefit in Ramadan, going and coming and preparing and running around. You know, the starts around 5 o'clock by the time people get home from work and whatever. Days, that's it. They don't get the spiritual benefit out of it. And at night, it's easy. They finish prayers by whatever it is, 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then what are they going to do for the next couple of hours before they sleep? They waste their time on A'udhu Billahi Ta'ala. Because the spiritual connection to Allah Azza wa Jal, the Book of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the Prophet of Allah Alayhi Salatu Wasalam, and the blessed month isn't there. They're not really yearning for it. They're not really hungry for it. They're not really anticipating it. Because anticipation, when you look at the psychology of it, anticipation is what makes any event good. The greater the anticipation, the greater the event. The more, in other words, I don't mean in that sense, but the more emotional attachment and the more emotional benefit one gets, the happier one gets, the greater the anticipation in doing things. Like when you're at home and your mum's cooking the meal, or whoever's cooking the meal at home, and you come and you smell it. What happens? The brain starts going nuts. When's the food? When are we going to eat? Whatever. And the longer it gets delayed, the hungrier one gets. And even if one isn't hungry, if the smell of food, depending on the individual, the smell of the food is there, then one starts to become hungry because the anticipation is there. How's it going to taste? What's it going to be like? Etc., etc. So that, in a spiritual sense, needs to be our state, inshallah Azza wa Jal, up in the next coming few weeks, inshallah, for the month of Ramadan. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Any questions about any of those things or anything?